The Morgan Report with David Morgan. Discover how to build and protect your wealth at themorganreport.com.
David Morgan of themorganreport.com for the week ending 9 December 2023. Well, last month of the year. It's gone by rather quickly. I'm just going to point out a couple things, and then I want to go into something of vital importance. First up is that I just finished an interview with Greg Hunter yesterday, and it is on usawatchdog.com. And Greg always does an excellent job not only interviewing, but he also does these summaries, which not too many people do. Talked about what I said, which is fine, and talked about some of the thoughts I have on where the metals are going to go. You can see here I said gold's going up to 2,500 by the end of 24, and even higher if things really go wrong for the U.S. dollar. Morgan also thinks silver will follow gold up and not lead this time. Morgan says silver could hit $50 per ounce by the end of 2024 if things get really ugly for the dollar. What I pointed out, if you don't listen to the whole interview and just read this, is what I'm really not saying it's going to 50, although I said it could. What I pointed out was there's very little resistance above $33, $34 an ounce. It's like almost a vacuum. I think the late, great Jim Sinclair used to call it a magnet, if I recall correctly. So there isn't much in that region between 34 and 50 to hold it back. So any new buying and people holding on to what they have and waiting for it to go higher, and since silver is such a thin market, especially with the amount of not only devoted silver bugs that have put up with more, let's say, nausea than almost any other asset class on the planet, and those that have held their conviction probably aren't willing to sell at 30-something an ounce. In fact, many of them will just be at break even because the premiums were so high for so long. So my point being is that, will we see 50 next year? And the answer is I don't know. What I do know is there's not much resistance above 34. Once we get to 50, I expect it to sell off, but not for long. I think it will come down to some level, and it will rebase, and it will go through 50. And once it goes through 50, no telling where it could go. Is all of that in store for us in 2024? I'm not sure. What I am sure is that probably the best legacy investment you can make as far as precious metals are concerned for your children or your children's children would be silver at this point in time. So I'll leave it there. I have something I think more important than the silver market. And what could be more important than the silver market to David Morgan? He's saying, of course, I'm a big picture guy, big picture thinker, and tried to get a handle on the monetary system from a rather very early age. And this book was pointed out to me some time ago. I think I was one of the first to learn about it. It's the word is spreading rapidly, as it should, and it's called The Great Taking. David Weber is the author. He did a YouTube piece that I just watched, which is more than enlightening. And that was pointed out to me by James Anderson, SD Bullion. Thank you, James. So as you can see at the URL, thegreattaking.com, you can actually download the book for free. So you can get the book and also the audiobook, by the way. The audiobook is on YouTube. I've listened to most of that. So you can just download the book. So that's the PDF version, and looking at the title of the book. I'm not going to go through very much of it. I just want to highlight a couple of things. There's so much in this book, and by the way, there will be a documentary made of the book that's available. I'll get to that at the end of this video. Again, I'm not going to go through the whole thing. I think I'll just go to just one chapter here. This is chapter 6, Safe Harbor for Whom and From What. It takes one of my favorite quotes from George Orwell. All animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. So what he points out here is that what the rulings have been, the law has basically been changed. And in the event of a protected contract where the bankruptcy court gets involved, who's the actual owner? And this is pretty interesting. Following the 2005 amendment to the code, The safe harbor covers a wide variety of contracts that might be considered derivatives, including securities contracts, commodities contracts, forwards contracts, repurchase agreements, and most importantly, swap agreements. That covers the whole of the derivatives market, present and future. A protected contract is only protected if the holder is also, get this, a protected person as defined in the bankruptcy code. Financial participants, essentially very large financial institutions, are always protected. So he goes on to explain is that in the next financial collapse or crisis, that basically the ownership of the securities and bonds go to the protected class, which is the big banks. Not all banks, just the big ones, the protected class. I think they're actually called the protected class. And so we are facing something very, very significant in the event of further financial deterioration, which I believe is inevitable. I'm not trying to scare anyone. I'm just trying to point out what actually exists at law at the present time. And he's done a great job. I'm going to stop there. I mean, you could go on and point things out that probably scare you even more than this. Again, I'm not trying to pull the fear card. I'm trying to pull the enlightenment card. Some of this is new to me. I mean, I really felt that if you had your certificate, and I don't advocate that. I think it's better to have your certs with your broker dealer, because in the event you want to get out fast, it's a mouse click. Whereas if you hold the cert, then you've got to mail it in, certified mail, probably the best, make sure they got it. Then they got to open it. In a crisis, they're not going to open it. They're just going to leave it on the desk. Once it's open, then they got to put it back in the electronic system so that they could sell it. So rather than go out of the electronic system into a piece of paper, back from a piece of paper, back in the electronic system, and all that's involved in doing that, I think personally it's better to just leave it as it is. But that's my take. I've said that for years now. I used to take possession of all my certs, but that was back in the day when you owned it. And there was a number assigned to you that was specific to your 100 shares of XYZ mining or your 10,000 shares of IBM or whatever it is. That doesn't exist anymore. So the documentary, The Great Taking by David Rogers Webb, is available on chd.tv, and it's up today, December 9th, 2023, I believe in 1 hour from now, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. I'm sure they'll probably have a replay, but I just want to get this out to everybody that follows my account. So I think I'll leave it there, keep this under 10 minutes. As I said last week, I'm going to try and do more and more kind of mini educational videos rather than just the news. There's many people that cover the financial news. My perspective is a little different. That's why I call it my perspective, but not always different. Regardless, I think it's better to just try and do some more education, especially on monumental things like The Great Taking. This is, you should listen to the audiobook. You should read the book. You should at least watch the documentary to get a feel for what really is the Great Taking. There's no better title that I can think of, because the reality is that you will own nothing and be happy. That's not a joke. That's how the system is now set up on a legal basis, on a global basis. And if that doesn't scare you, I don't think anything will. It's David Morgan from themorganreport.com, signing out until next week.
What if I told you that you could go broke in less than 24 hours? That's how long it took for the Dow Jones Industrial Average to plunge by nearly 22%, losing investors billions overnight. The same happened to the FTX crypto exchange and Terra Luna stablecoin. Both crashed overnight, losing crypto investors billions. You need a strategy that will protect whatever amount of savings you have now. We are going to witness the greatest transfer of wealth that has ever occurred in recorded history, and you must understand the following. You can absolutely go broke in one day. We've been helping subscribers weather this economic mess for years. Now it's time for you to get the same insights. What really happens during a major collapse is that the wealth changes hands. You will actually benefit by looking ahead and knowing exactly how to build and preserve your wealth. Putting just 10% or 20% of your wealth into our approach could make all the difference in your financial security and peace of mind over the next few years. Discover the Morgan Report today. Visit our site at themorganreport.com.